Hello and welcome to another Gospel Project recap video. This week our story comes from Matthew 17, and we're looking at a story that is found in several of the Gospels, the story of Jesus' transfiguration. And so the story goes is that Jesus takes three of the disciples, John and James and Peter, and they go up on this high mountain. And then in the course of them being up on this high mountain, it says that Jesus transfigured before them. And while we don't really know all of what that means, what the Bible does tell us is that his face started to shine, his clothes started to become brighter and brighter. It was kind of like, the Bible equates it to like the brightness of the sun. And so Peter and James and John are kind of having this moment of like, what's going on? Very much kind of freaking out about the whole thing. And they hear this voice that finally kind of, well, before that, they're offering like, hey, like we'll build like a temple or a house for you here, and we'll like, they're so amazed at what they're seeing that they don't know how to respond. It's finally like the voice of God that comes out and kind of speaks to them and says like, hey, this is my son, listen to him, that kind of breaks them from that. And then they had this conversation when Jesus is sort of coming down the mountain, where Jesus is kind of saying like, hey, like keep this to yourself until after I'm gone, kind of a thing. And so it's this really interesting story. It has a lot of parallels, actually, going back to the Old Testament, to Moses, where similarly Moses went up onto a mountain to talk with God and to get the law. And what the Bible tells us is when he would come back down off the mountain, after he had had some of these face-to-face encounters that Moses would have with God, it would say that his face would shine, and it was like too bright to look at. So a lot of times the Israelites were like, hey, Moses, like put a veil on, cover up that shine, like we can't deal with that right now. The interesting thing that is happening with that parallel is Moses did all that to acquire the law. And you know, the law in Jesus' day, as Jesus is ministering, the law, all those rules were what like the Pharisees were hung up on and getting other people hung up on by extension. And Jesus comes and kind of has a similar experience, and it's kind of saying like, hey, like I'm doing the same thing Moses, I'm having the same experience that Moses did, because something better is coming. That was a lot of kind of Jesus's purpose is not the right way to talk about, like Jesus kept kind of coming and saying like, hey, I'm here to do more than what Moses did with the law. And so that's the story. Kind of the biggest, most important idea I think that we could take from this story is just this idea that I think this was a clarifying moment for those three disciples, where they've watched him do miracles, they've heard him teach, they've seen him do all the things, and through it all claim to be the Messiah. And then in this moment they get this invisible demonstration that they're seeing the glory of God in Jesus, and like that's a physical, visible demonstration that he is the Messiah. But then also to hear that voice of God saying, this is my son, listen to him. I think this is a clarifying moment for those three, that like this guy is exactly who he says he is. And so for your kids, big idea wise, we were just going to talk about that Jesus showed his glory to these three disciples. And with your students, we're going to go a few steps further and talk about like how this was a first moment of this, and that one day Jesus is going to show, Jesus' glory is going to be on display for everyone to see. And so just, yeah, that was kind of what we were going to focus this week. This is one of those harder lessons, in my opinion, about Jesus to teach to students and to kids, because it's a little bit more ambiguous and a little bit more not head knowledge, but it's not turning water into wine. It's not feeding 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. It's a very different kind of a thing that's focused on this connection Jesus has with the Father and like acknowledging that connection, that Jesus is the Son, that Jesus is God, to people who can hear it and see it. And then just Jesus' glory being displayed in this first kind of primary way, where one day every person will see what Peter, James, and John saw, and every knee will bow before the glory of Jesus. So anyway, that's the video this week. That's the lesson. There will be, as always, additional resources available on our website or in emails that you're going to get. I hope you're well. I hope the school year is starting off well for your family, even though it's a little bit different. And until I get to see you again, either in person or in the next video, God bless.